So the first thing about the idea of music, I think I have to tell you that we live many lives per day. So it's an important part of our lives. It's the soul deep in the studio, which essentially ranges from Jimi Hendrix, ACDC, and like that, all of that goes all the way to jazz, blues, things like that, and also to deep house tower, boiler window, things like that. So that's all in the background. Does it take away anything? I think of course it does. Can we do without it? No. Are we consciously thinking of it? No. Is it consciously adding a lot of value to the way we interpret, design, or anything? Not directly, but I think we go to a lot of concerts. So connection of music is not about what we listen. It's also about an experience. So we go to a lot of concerts and quests. When I say we, I'm talking about me, my associates, partners, like whoever's really interested. We find reasons to go out and experience. So like the Bangalore opener that was here was incredible. Then there's Guns N' Roses on 17th of May. So all these are usually experiences which allow you to dissect the society in a very interesting way. It tells you about the time that we're in. It tells you about the idea of pop culture. Okay. So there are so many ways to interpret it. So music is just one of the mediums. So that's how we look at it, and we look at many such videos. We like to go out and eat. So we explore, we do a lot of folk trails, so including traveling. All these are here involved. Like there's work and there are meetings at the Bombay, wherever we are working. And then you essentially find these things to plug them in. So I don't like to rest. So it allows me a lot more time in life. So essentially all these come together where you start realizing what's happening in India. It's not about saying, oh, I really want to go to Hampi and it doesn't excite. So for me, I like to go to places where life is or what is happening right now, because you're then dissecting it very differently. So a lot of the work that we do is like an extension of that, and try to get that in architecture, but more holistically, not about just trying to make it look cool and things like that. Because architecture stays forever. These are, I can't say trends, but these are things that come and go, but we know what we really like. So that clarity is that. On the other side, how do we work on processes? Model is just again one way of it. Just the model is just a thought process of sometimes using it during the process of thought in the beginning, sometimes during that whole ideas, progressive work when it is happening. Sometimes it's at the end. Sometimes it's also to dissect and check, is it actually going to work the way we are thinking? Sometimes we also use it to explain the project to somebody, because a lot of the times it is complex, the works that we do, and it may be a small part of a large project. So we use that as a way or a medium to convey our thoughts. Every project that I show has, of course, many models. So it varies. So there's no fixed thought process of how we use anything. As much as it is structured, internally it is as open as it should be. So I can never give you a direct answer for everything you ask. There's a lot of duality in the way we live.
Thank you, sir, for the speech. Hello, sir. I'm Sabriti from Gate Semester. So, being in a creative field, it has usually tend to obsess over a certain element. So, do you have any of that, like apart from music, or do you have any obsessions?
So we're obsessed with life in general, and I mean it, because I feel there are so many ways to look at it, right? We like to keep going back to history to understand cultural narratives, and it's fantastic to understand through artists how they live their life. And I always find that architecture is a fantastic medium to live one life. What does that mean? So that you don't go back home and say, I'm done with my voice. I want to do something nice or exciting, etc. What does that mean? That, like, I keep questioning this to myself. Not as a studio, because as a studio we work on time. And we billboard to whatever they want. But I really want people to live their lives the way they want to. But for me, on a very, very personal level, I don't have I can stretch it to a meaning. If you ask me, am I working right now? Maybe yes. If you ask me, am I having a good time or just chilling? Yes. So there's no, how do you call this idea of work-life balance that people talk about? I don't understand it. Because I'm enjoying that process of living. So there's actually,
Feel like
yeah, because architecture is a very important part of how we think and live our life. So we're constantly talking about it as people, as whoever we meet, we're obsessed with that whole idea of that as a ego. But then there are so many layers that are also allowing us to be who we are. It does not excite us if I have to go back at 6:30 in the evening and find something exciting to do. I find it very boring. Then I don't know what to do. So what I'm trying to say is we live one life where I don't have a disconnect between work, architecture, music, film, temple, or whatever. So it's all so, it's like you're in the life of an artist, like. It's as simple as that. You never question the law or this amplification. No more, but I never question them saying, how do you think of music? He's not saying 10 to 6 I do every day. Then I go home, I do something, then morning again I start. It's impossible yet. So what you're working or what you're thinking we use with you uniquely throughout the day, and after that, that is what I'm trying to state. And there's a very interesting post. It was, I think, Zakir Hussain now, Tabla Maestro, the passed away last year. There was a very interesting post online, you can look it up, where he talked about how everything for him is a concert. Traveling is a concert. Reaching somewhere is a concert. Because everything is adding to that. Everything is an experience that he is enjoying. So it's an extraordinary way to look at life. When you realize most artists, if you look up, everyone is talking about their life, good or bad, but they are excited to do whatever they're doing in art. So the moment you start looking at it very seriously is when it starts getting really boring. And that's what we never want to. In fact, that's us. We do very serious work. But our life is sort of an extension of that. But at the same time, it is completely disconnected from that seriousness of that work. So that's why that duality of praise there.
thank you. And so, the new launch of Beat Service Tour. So, you speak about building with nature and non-coordinates too. So, in most of your projects, landscape plays a very important role. So, at what point in the design process does the landscape start to connect in the build form, or is it anywhere?
Contextually, it's both. There's a third way too, where they have sometimes worked with other architects, where they're only doing landscape. It's very different that type. Sometimes the architecture and the landscape are initiated together, where it's a thought process that is carried forward in a way where you don't know what architecture is and what landscape is. Most of the private projects that we do, residences, we do very soon. Like those are all designed like that. You don't know where the line exists. Also, there is a project called Shreyas Retreat, which we did many years ago. It was also done like that. We also have a third way of looking at it. We also like to break away from the narrative that architect does this, landscape architect does this, interior designer does this, and engineers do that. We always wanted to keep it open-ended. Actually, what you saw in, as an example, the Mark Auditorium buildings, the entire architecture is actually done by an interior designer. So it shatters the whole idea of what an interior design is like. Two of them. Everything that you see in terms of the scale and the pattern on the floor, it's not just that. They have also worked on the exteriors of it. And it's very complex. So we like this whole cross sectioning of multiple people and pushing them to start thinking differently. So even landscape in our office, although Aditi is a landscape architect, she has people who are working with her constantly who are all very different. So there's no real vertical system in the office at all. So it keeps varying. Even on a project, it's a mix. Sometimes it's this, sometimes it's that. Nobody will know. And we like to keep it that way because then there's no difference saying, okay, now architecture is done. Now can you call the landscape architect? Or can you call the interior design? Can they do something inside? It doesn't work.
Okay. Right, I have another question. You also showed us some of the details for the wine palms, that means urgings and the good. Do you focus on the structural part of it first, like the details, and then design and then come back at the structure?
Many things actually. First of all, I'm happy that you're calling it a cultural sector. It's a very serious academic building. So I'm happy that it's trying to, like, without knowing too much about it, you know the visuals of it, you know the process of it, but you won't worry too much about the name because that's the whole idea of what we were trying to do. So I'm happy that you saw it in that way. First thing is, each project has a very unique way of initiation. So a project like Tatmi had a very different thought process. The geometry came much later. Now the idea of the structure actually came much later. What initiated was the idea to be very seriously looking at having places that doesn't make it look like it's meant for academics, and that there's more space for you to do a lot of other things. So in those moments, the structure is actually it. So it's an initiation that happens after we could go far ahead when we designed or we thought about the idea of the bamboo and structure. Then we went back realizing, oh wait, the funnels, where does it go? Where does the water go? How do you connect? So there's a lot of back and forth. It's not as easy as starting with the train time and all that. MSAP actually was simpler because you could work on a model. System was also simpler because you could work on a model, but that module and the grid doesn't align. So it's very different there.
Like you said,